You are listening to the Doc Malik podcast. This show is 100% independent and fully funded by listeners like yourself. So, if you wish to support Ahmed in all that he is doing, then please subscribe to his channel on Spotify or his Substack. Or simply buy him a coffee with a one-off donation, links to which can be found at docmalik.com. Now, let's get on with the show.
Right. Okay, Iris, listen, thank you very much. I need to thank one of my supporters, by the way. An amazing Singapore man. He bought me lots of coffees, and that's not just the reason I love him. But basically, he also said you need to speak to Iris and her team. She's this incredible woman. She's a freedom fighter. She is a force to be reckoned with, and you really need to look into her case. And I was like, I'm so sorry, I don't know who Iris is. I'll look her up. And normally the first thing I do is I go on my X feed and I look you up. And I'm like, oh, she's following me. This is great. Oh my goodness. So then I sent you a message and blah, blah, blah. And then we're chatting and boom, here we are. But anyway, Iris, before we dive into some of the nitty gritty stuff that, the court case and whatnot, can I ask you something? Are you an activist? Have you always been a conspiracy theorist? Do you have multiple tinfoil hats? I mean, like, what's your background? Like, are you just a crazy person? Or what did you used to do in the last few years?
Okay, well, all along I've been a music teacher. I'm a musician. I am a choral conductor. I also do musicals. So I work with children. I work with adults, and basically we're just singing songs, being happy and that kind of things. I am an accidental activist, not by my own choosing in a way. Somehow I feel called to do what I mean, just to speak up. And then, so that's my story. I became accidental activist in July 2021.
July 2021. Okay.
And I've heard conspiracy theories before, right? So people say, oh, depopulation, this, that. And I'm just like, okay, whatever. It's in the back of my mind. I never thought it's I put it as a conspiracy theories. But now I call myself a conspiracy realist.
Me too. I say that all the time. Iris, snap. I'm telling people I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I'm a conspiracy realist.
Yeah.
100%. So what is it exactly back in July 2021 that made you go, what the frack is going on? I'm becoming an accidental activist. I also say that as well, by the way. I didn't choose. I was very happy fixing broken ankles and getting paid very well for it, respected in the community and, nationally. And now, I'm where I am. So what happened to you? What made you change?
Well, I started seeing people die around me, which is rather scary. Okay, usually days after they take the vaccine, and I told myself I can't keep quiet anymore. I just wrote a little text on my Facebook. I said, I don't think I'm going to take these vaccines because anyway, it doesn't protect us. I just said something very simple, and then suddenly lots of people started liking my posts, telling me they also thinking not to take. And just bear in mind, for some reason, there was a lot of silence. Seems like an atmosphere of fear surrounding the whole topic. Is that we are not allowed to talk about it. So I was one of the few that talked about it. And then another high-ranking, like this Professor Tommy Koh, he was ex-UN ambassador, and he made the post on his Facebook saying that, oh, if you didn't take the vaccine, you should not be allowed to go to the mall, you cannot go to the restaurant, and basically shaming us, right? And the next thing I know, I replied him, my post went viral on Facebook, and then the next thing I know, the government did exactly what he suggested. We were banned from going to the restaurants, and then I just sat on my computer and something downloaded on me and I just typed 1 hour. It was done. I didn't change a single word. And before I know it, 15,000 and to date, 16,000 people have signed the petition.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. It's called "Do Not Let Vaccination Status Divide Us," and that's why it went on to creating the group Healing the Divide, because I kind of I read a bit about history, about what happened during World War II, the Jews and all the Nazis and stuff, right? And how they were trying to cause the divide, and I really didn't want history to repeat itself, basically.
You didn't want medical apartheid. Oh,
Yeah.
Listen, well done you. And you know what? That professor that came out and said, oh, everybody should be, should get the shot, otherwise it can't go to the pub, restaurant. It was global. We had people rolled out across the world saying the same shit, positions of authority, absolute scumbags that should be hung as far as I'm concerned, because it completely violated medical ethics, informed consent, bodily autonomy, everything, okay? But can I just say something? In the West, we have this impression that people in Singapore, in China, are very obedient, follow authority, are like good little robots, good little worker bees. They just do as they're told. Because if I'm not mistaken, Singapore isn't really a true democracy. It's run by a family. It's run by a dynasty. And then you have an assembly that gives the illusion of democracy. And everybody is pacified because they've got a reasonable standard of living. They get food in their bellies, a roof over their head, even if it's a small house, small apartment. And they get intoxicated by shopping and materialism. I've been to Singapore lots of times, and I don't mean to have a dig at it. It's beautiful. It's stunning in some respects. The food's amazing. But I thought the culture was very shallow. People were just walking around the malls, going to work, socializing, eating. It was all centered around consumerism, materialism. Am I right saying this, or am I wrong and this is just a stereotype and I'm a racist?
No, actually, you've brought up a very important point, because, in a New Year's Eve survey by this newspaper called Mothership, they did a Telegram survey. They say what changes in the new year, what resolution would you make them break in a week, okay? And the first one is at 33%, people said, oh, stop spending money on stupid things. And the second one says, I don't want to feel so dead inside. People are feeling dead inside, because and it goes on to the shallowness and the fact that our society is so material based. People queue up for stuffed toys, and they care about those kinds of things that actually doesn't even affect their life and death. And then for issues that concern their life and death, they are not talking about it. And this is the very sad reality of what's going on.
So was my observation correct then?
Well, the other thing that you talk about, which I can't really, the dynasty thing, I can't really comment on it. Technically, we're not. But, we have the People's Action Party. It's a political party that has been in power for about 60 years already. Okay, so that's why, and they have a lot of power. And that's one of the reasons it may feel like, how come, but the government has got so much power over the people. And technically, the government is meant to be civil servants, right? They're supposed to follow our will of the people. But somehow they feel like our overlords. Telling us when to vaccinate, what to put in our bodies, and so forth. I mean, when did that happen? How did we become like this? That's the question that we must ask ourselves.
So, I'm just aware that there's a Lee family and they're a political family, and basically they kind of run Singapore, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, the first Prime Minister of Singapore is Lee Kuan Yew. Okay, so he is the so-called the founding father of modern Singapore.
Yep, Lee Kuan Yew. Yep.
Okay, his son is Lee Hsien Loong. Okay, at sometime late last year, he officially stepped down as the Prime Minister of Singapore. Okay, and that was a big thing. It was a big thing. And there is an ongoing family feud between him and his brother, Lee Hsien Yang. Okay, over the Oxley property, which is the family home. but it's also where the birthplace of PAP is.
Yeah.
So Lee Hsien Yang is now in exile in the UK. So you may have known about the story.
Lee Kuan Yew is in exile.
No, Lee Hsien Yang. Lee Kuan Yew died. Okay, Lee Kuan Yew died. Okay, there is.
Yeah. So the founder. Yes. No, I meant the son. Is the son now in exile?
Yes.
The former prime minister.
No, the former prime minister's brother, younger brother, is in exile in the UK, and he cited that he is being basically bullied by the authorities and that they can use the organs of states to target him. That's what he says. I'm just quoting you. What? And his sister also said the same thing.
I don't feel sorry for these people. That family, I think, has $40 billion in assets and wealth. They basically run Singapore like their own fiefdom. And the funny thing is, the reason why I'm bringing this to attention is a lot of people in the West are fed this propaganda that, we need to bring democracy to Libya. We need to bring democracy to Syria, when actually they have democracy. And at the same time, they support countries like Saudi Arabia, which is a kingdom run by a family, the Saud family. And they support Qatar, which is run by the Thani or something family. And then they support UAE, the United Arab Emirates, where there's just rich families. And then they support Singapore, their greatest ally in the Far East, which is run by a family. And so what I'm trying to say is the West, supports oligarchs. It supports seriously undemocratic places and kind of like just brushes over it and goes, they're our friends, they're our allies, they're beacons of democracy and freedom and liberty. And look at these bad, nasty countries where they're not democratic and they're run by tyrants. And they use words like regimes, these regimes. I'm sorry, I would argue that Singapore is run by a regime. I mean, but do you see what I mean? It's the constant propaganda, it's the constant lies that we're being fed. It's just incredible. But anyway, coming back to Singapore, are most people just very obedient worker drones, blinded by materialism, or is that an overgeneralization? Are there lots of people who are feisty and waking up and thinking something's really wrong with our society?
Well, I wish to tell you different, but I think, like if I compare our society with, say, even Malaysia, next door neighbor, or Japan, they have got lots of doctors standing up and basically speaking and people, joining them. But in Singapore, I am unfortunately one of the very, very few voices, if not the only, I'm the loudest, I think, regarding the vaccine issue. There's a few more, like there's another politician, Goh Meng Seng, who their party asked for the mRNA jabs to be stopped. But apart from that, many people are silent. Those who are in high positions, you will never hear them say anything. Even politicians, when I approach them, many would not even talk to me, or they would not really put their foot down to have basically a position regarding this. So I'm very disappointed, actually. Back in April 2021, I believe there were 12 doctors who wrote a petition to ask the government to provide China vaccines for the population, and in which we subsequently got the China vaccines. So there were at least 12 doctors doing that. Okay, but in general, we have some retired doctors like Dr. Gabriel Woon.
So very quickly, those 12 doctors were asking for the China vaccine
as an option, as additional to the Pfizer, Moderna, because these technologies were, somewhat safer. Okay, so they were asking that.
I don't know, actually. They said that about the Russian one as well, and they said that about AstraZeneca. They said, oh, it's different. I've come to the conclusion that actually they were all doing the same thing. They're all ultimately creating spike protein and editing the genetic thing. It was all the same, by the way. It just
Well, I didn't take anything, so I wasn't in favor of the China ones as well, but many people needed some kind of other alternative due to work and all that. I mean, the government is the biggest employer in Singapore.
Yeah.
You know, there's many public servants, and there are many government-linked organizations as well as companies. So,
I mean, that's what I meant. I mean, like Singapore's run like a family that's the government, and it employs most people, and this is what I mean. It's very profitable and successful country. I think that's also because it's been supported by the West, and it's, you know, there's a reason for that. But that comfort comes at the cost of liberty, freedom, and choice. You know, you don't question the hand that feeds you. But going back to the doctors and whatnot, and what about the grassroots? Are there people protesting, marching, demanding, you know, that this stops? Or are you really a fringe and, you know, a lone voice?
Let me tell you about the political landscape. Okay, as mentioned, the PAP has been in power for the longest time. There hasn't been any time in our history that the opposition party has taken over. So they basically has been sitting on the throne for a long time. And there is in Singapore, you can't just do public protests. There is something called the Public Order Act. Okay, even one person holding up a placard, that's considered a protest, and you can go to jail for it. And there are people who have gone to jail for putting up a one-man.
So, are you kidding me?
I'm not kidding you. And there is a place, and the only way to get around this is if you apply, okay, to national parks to go to this place called Hong Lim Park, okay, which is the official place to have any kind of protest, but you have to apply for it. And during COVID and in 2021, 2022, Hong Lim Park was closed. So we couldn't protest.
Wow, because over here in the UK, we have yellow board signs, and it's around the world actually. I think it maybe started in Australia. I'm not sure, but you know, I've joined them quite a few times. I can't go most times because it clashes with my kids swimming, and I take my kids swimming. But basically, at roundabouts and corners, we put yellow placards up.
You guys are living in a dream. You know, you are the freedom that we wish we have.
You cannot even put a placard up and just complain about something. And this is meant to be Singapore free democratic society. This is what I was talking about. To me, Singapore sounds like a very authoritarian state, and the people are just kept in their place by drowning them in food and shopping and materialism.
Yes, now is 2025, but we are living in 1984.
Yeah, you very much are. Okay, and am I right that even the opposition party is run by members of that family, that dynasty family? I think.
Well, technically no. Although I think there are, in my view, there's quite a lot of controlled oppositions.
Yes.
That you know, and that's what. And basically, it's not even what I say, right? Because it's like a playbook all around the world. How do you control the opposition? You control the opposition by being one of them. and that's what they did also in this whole COVID vaccine rollouts. Okay, there is a controlled opposition group, in my view, that masqueraded as a vaccine injured group.
Oh, okay. Right. We'll come to that in a second. Who is Lee Hsien Yang?
He is the brother of the previous prime minister.
And he's the one that ran off to London and is London. So he used to be a member of the opposition Progress Singapore party as well, by the way. Just FYI.
Yeah, he was from PSP. That was after his father died, and maybe he felt like PAP is no longer what it used to be, and then he joined the PSP, but not really. He never ran for office. He just mostly showed his support.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I've been told by several people, oh, Ahmed, there's no such thing as controlled opposition, and no, it's not a useful thing to do. It causes division in our ranks, and blah blah blah. And I'm kind of sympathetic to that to some degree. And the reason why, and I should warn you, Iris, is I've been accused of controlled opposition. I've been told, you've seen my studio. Who made your studio? Where'd you get the money from? And why are you so successful in such a short space of time? And who are you? And what's your background? And who's supporting you? And as you can see, I've got my MI6 handlers here. I've got the CIA sitting opposite me. I've got all these people supporting me, and doing all my research for me and funding me billions, So honestly, I kid you not, I've been accused of that, and I wonder whether they're the ones that are controlled opposition to accuse me of controlled. I mean, it gets really murky. But I also think there's a lot of just narcissists. Coming into this field, I used to think as an orthopedic surgeons were arrogant, type A, difficult pieces of shit to deal with. Really, typical arrogant surgeon, think they're the best. Backstabbing and competitive. I thought they were a hard bunch of people to deal with. Oh my God. They are like kindergarten kids compared to this so-called freedom movement, right? They are amateurs. They are nothing compared to some of the people that I've been now dealing with. The backstabbing, the egos, the arrogance, the false personas, like they project a persona publicly, but privately, they are completely different animals. And you're just thinking, what the fuck is going on here? So I don't think all of them are controlled opposition. I think a lot of them are just narcissists. A lot of them are self-serving, egotistical. They're wanting to make a name for themselves. They're wanting to make money or career for themselves. They want to get on a bandwagon. I think some of them are chaos agents. They're just thrown in to just cause disruption and infighting. I think some of them are controlled indirectly and unwillingly and unknowingly. And I think some of them are controlled directly, knowingly. And it's very difficult. Now, having told you my experience, tell me about the controlled opposition out in Singapore and why you think it's the case. Tell me about it.
Okay. So I have written an article about this. I will give you the link afterwards. Okay. So back in April 2021, around I heard that this group started on Telegram. It's called the SG Suspected Vaccine Injuries Group. And I joined the group in May. This was before I started my own group. And it was there that I started seeing quite a lot of injuries in Singapore and deaths following the COVID-19 vaccines. And in July, when I started speaking up, and I actually was belonging in that group for a few months. And when I started speaking up, this lady from that group, started talking to me and making friends with me. And then we had a falling out after my event because I feel that she was actually basically trying to control me, which I didn't want to be controlled. And then she put out a message in her Telegram with all the admins saying that what they are doing is basically trying to help the government to manage dissenting voices. Okay, and I'm thinking to myself, wow, who are you? Why are you helping the government manage dissenting voices?
Yes.
So then it dawned on me, and basically I'm suing her. By the way, her name is and she accused me of being seditious. Okay, and all I wanted to do right at the start, okay, I mean, I've sued different groups. I've sued the newspaper. We have sued the health minister. I wanted to sue the government for crimes against humanity and all these things. And basically, that's what I mean. That's the only legal thing that we can do. We can't protest much except at Hong Lim Park, and even that is very controlled. During COVID, there was nothing we can't. That place was shut down. Okay, so the only thing left to me is basically suing. What else can we do, right? And that would have been a legal thing, but in her view, I'm seditious and all that, and that group controls many of the vaccine injuries group. So it is a very good plan because you know why? They have a lot of COVID vaccine injured people in that group. So all they did after we had the falling out was they started going to these injured people and telling them to avoid me and healing the divide. Sometimes they would, these people, they would post certain things on their Facebook or on their blogs, and we just reposted these in our groups. And then the next thing we know, the patients will come and tell us to take it down and remove it from our Telegram when it's already public. Okay, and I didn't really understand what was going on.
So what I was saying was, here in the West, we've had certain figures to lawfare against other so-called activists, and you're like, what? What is that all about? And you might have heard, for example, Malone versus Breggins, Malone versus Jane Ruby, and you just think, why are we doing this? What's happening here? So it's kind of bizarre and crazy. And like I said, my experience is that there's something weird going on. The accusations that people have made against me, I just feel like, why would the enemy design and plan all of their evil plans and not take into consideration the fact that there will be some people opposing them? So we need to lead that group as well. We need to
Yes.
that group as well. I think it's just logical. I don't think that's conspiratorial. I think it's just another conspiracy reality. It's just they are very smart. They know what they're doing. They've been doing this a very long time. They're not idiots. And they will have picked and groomed certain individuals to lead the charge from the other side. And again, some of them are directly controlled and some are indirectly controlled. Some are knowingly controlled, some are unknowingly controlled. This is just conspiracy reality.
Yes, absolutely. And definitely from my experience, this is just based on my experience. And I think it's a very, very dark world, but it's very well organized. We must understand that this thing didn't happen overnight. It took years and years of training, and there is many, many decades of war lessons to draw from, even political lessons to draw from. Like, it's a known fact that how do you control the opposition? By being the opposition. That's just common sense.
Common sense. Right, listen, I want to share something with you. So I want to talk about your court case.
Yeah.
So you've been subjected to lawfare, and on the 21st of January 2022, about 6 months after you decided to become an accidental activist, you were arrested and held for 15 days for investigations. But 2 days after they held you, they charged you. And that you've been I think there's like 14, 15 different charges. But the first one is you conspired criminally with Dytospian, who I believe is a doctor, and we'll talk about him in a second, about dishonestly making false representations to the Ministry of Health. So anyway, in summary, what they said was you claimed to vaccinate people when you actually didn't. You gave them saline injections, and then in order to obtain certificate of vaccination. And the certificate of vaccination was important because, like you just said, they banned you from participating in society. And I don't know whether they were mandating it for work. I don't know if that was the case or not. But you can imagine why, if you didn't want the vaccine, you'd quite like to get one of these certificates. But this was, you were acquitted, and this charge was dropped. There was no trial on May 2024. More than 2 years later, they actually dropped this charge. On the 3rd of February, you were charged with tearing up a statement from a police officer. So they've said, sign this statement, and you're like, whatever, no, and you tear it up. And now that's obstruction to some kind of justice or whatever, I don't know what, but they were charging you on that. Do you want to comment on these two things first before we move on?
Okay, the first charge is so-called like a holding charge. So when they put me in remand, they needed a charge to hold me for 7 days and another 7 days. So that was the original charge before they basically get more facts of the matter. So apparently after investigations, they just decided to drop that one because there were other charges, including the doctor, plus each one with different patients, okay? So that one was dropped. So maybe nothing too... But the funny thing was that they wanted me to... They came to me and asked me if I wanted a deal, The deal was like, I plead guilty to some, they will drop this one. This was before they actually dropped it. No, and of course I said, no, I'm innocent, I'm not pleading guilty to anything. But they dropped this one. So they were going to drop it anyway, but they were just going to come and tell me, hey, do you want to plead? So, but anyway, thank God I wasn't bullshitted into that. Okay. The second one, okay, so this one happened during remand. What happened was that I was very traumatized by the investigations, and I wanted to see this. I requested to see the supervisor of the investigation officer, and I was taken to this female police officer by the name of Koh Jia. Okay.
This is while you're in remand.
Yes. And I asked her, can we have a conversation, please? And she said, yes, but I have to record it. And I asked her one more time. So I just want to be sure. We can have a conversation. She said, yes, but I have just to record it. And what happened after that was not a conversation. It became an interrogation and statement taking, which is actually very improper, because they're supposed to give me the caution statements. They're supposed to tell me they're taking my statements, but didn't. I thought I was having a conversation with her. So at the end of it, she passed me the paper, and basically I was reminded that we were going to have a conversation, and I just basically lost it, and I just tore the paper, and I said, and yeah. So basically that.
Good for you.
But the thing is that I didn't even know that it was a statement. So I'm still going to plead not guilty for this, okay? Because she didn't introduce herself, okay, as the investigating officer. She just told me she's the IO senior. And and in my view, I was there to make a complaint, okay, about the investigating officer. So this is a second charge. My lawyer did tell me that what I should have done is to just cross out the thing and said, these are not my statements. Then I won't be charged. But I was really very upset by then, because so many improper things have happened to me by then, and
So all I can say to that is, God bless you, and you're a human being, and the fact is you've got fire in your belly, and the problem is so many people are sleepwalking through life and have no fire in the belly, and I'll give an example, right? There's hooligans here in the UK, football hooligans, okay? Much of the world, actually, Europe as well. But like in the UK, right, they're burly men. They're meant to be like tough and rough and, oh yeah, swearing, holding their beer cans up for a fight, gesticulating swear words, against the opposition. They're the big, tough men, right? But when the government came and took their jobs and forced them and their loved ones to take an experimental shot and told them they can't go to the pub and they can't go to the park and they can't go to the gym, all these big tough men just stayed at home and went, okay, all right, okay, government, okay. Where was the fire in their belly? Where was that, aggression? It just disappeared. They were cowards. And what I'm trying to say is so many people just did that. The government said, don't do this. We're taking away your freedoms. We're taking away your rights. We're taking away your businesses. We're going to indebt you with money and we're going to poison you. And everybody went, okay, thank you. Thank you, government. And the fact is, you sound like a feisty woman. You've been remanded, treatment, and you've got fire in your belly. I don't blame you. I don't blame you for reacting the way you did. But listen, what about this doctor, Dytospian Koh? Who is he and what's the story?
Hi, me again. You're listening to the Doc Malik podcast. This show is 100% independent and fully funded by listeners like yourself. So if you wish to support Ahmed in all that he is doing, then please subscribe to his channel on Spotify or on his Substack, or simply buy him a coffee with one of the donation links which can be found at docmalik.com. Now, let's get back to the show.
Okay, well, he was introduced to me by a doctor friend of mine who was my singing student. I know her for 10 years. And when the situation came along, I spoke to her and she said maybe I could talk to Dr. Dytospian because he was a musician like me. So she thought that I would get some sympathetic ear. I first met him around late August. I went to his clinic once only. I only met him once in real life. And then the rest of the time, we were just conversing on WhatsApp, mostly messages. 99% of the time, I hardly even spoke to him on the phone. Yeah. Right? So I do not know what conspiracy there could be. He did tell me that he could give Sinopharm according to body weight of the person. Okay, which I thought was a good idea because, I have 4 cats. And when I see the vet, every time they have to weigh the cat, before they give any kind of medication. So I just thought it must be the good thing to do. Maybe he's just taking the extra step to basically give according to body weight of the person. And so I recommended a couple of people to him for the Sinopharm vaccinations. And then I recommended hundreds of patients to him, because what happened in December 2021 was that the government said that to remain unvaccinated, you have to take a PET test, pre-event testing, every day at a clinic. It's likely going to cost you like $30 each testing. So you just imagine, if you work 20 days a month, that's $600.
Wow.
How many people can afford $600 per month to stay unvaccinated?
So it's not just the inconvenience of going for a test every day. You have to pay for the test.
Yes. So I talked to Dr. Gibson, and he basically said, okay, he could give a special $150 flat rate per month to people, and then it could do remote as well, so they could just do it online, which I thought was a really great idea. So I told that to my group, and hundreds of people sign up, and then that's how some of the patients that apparently, there was some, his clinic assistant, Thomas, he, sold some vaccinations to them. Like I say, I'm not part of that, and I really don't know what happened. Okay. So, but basically, they want me. So since now there's a convenient, I recommended them to the doctor. So I must be part of it too. Right. So that's the basic story about this, how I got involved.
Wow. Wow. And what is the doctor now?
Okay, let me tell you something very interesting. So when I was in the police station, right? And then the police was like, Dr. Gibson say you know. I said, huh? I know? What does I know mean? Firstly, I'm unvaccinated. If there's ever such a deal, why don't I take it? I should give it to my husband. I give it to my brother and my, people that I want. I just close down Healing the Divide. Everybody just go for the fake vaccine. Then shouldn't we just solve the problem like that? But what I wanted to do from day one is to sue the government, which I have done many times. I am still suing them. Okay. I'm still holding them to account, and I need evidence of harm. When I send people to Dr. Gibson, I even ask them to take the D-dimer test, the before and after. So I don't want fake vaccine, because I've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars to sue the government, right? I need evidence of harm. So since these people are going to get vaccinated anyway, so give me your data. Maybe if you die, maybe this is for humanity. Help us out.
Wow. And when you said you sued the government previously, did you win? What happened with those cases?
Okay. So I sued Straits Times, the newspaper, in around October 2021.
That's a government mouthpiece.
Yes. And they said something about unvaccinated people are basically causing harm to society, blah, blah, blah. This kind of propaganda, right? So I sued them. And their defense was, these are not statements of fact.
What?
They say these are not statements of fact. So their defense was, these are not statements of fact. They were trying to say it's basically an opinion piece. Too bad if you believe us. And too bad if people hate you because of our opinion piece. Okay?
Wow. It's like people like Jacinda Ardern saying, we never forced you to take the vaccine. We never forced you. Like us telling you that you can't go to the pub or the restaurant, you can't fly, you can't travel, you need a PCR test every day, and us restricting your quality of life and us mandating, so that you have to work. If you want to work, you need the vaccine. That's not us forcing you. We didn't put a gun to your head. We're not forcing you.
So anyway, we discontinued the lawsuit because if the defense was that it's not statements of fact, we basically got what we wanted. Their admission that they were performing propaganda.
Wow. Do you know I had a guy called Angus Dalgleish. He's very well known, and he's going around the world on a tour. It's kind of amazing. He goes around on a tour, and he claims to be, very skeptical of the vaccines and whatnot. But look at this, he changed his tune, and I had him on my podcast, but sadly he won't come back on again. He doesn't respond to my messages. But Lord, what is this? Here we go. Okay, I'll just accept it. What Every young person who fears the jab must, capital letters, be told. Vaccine expert Angus Dalgleish dismantles beliefs that have seen rates stall amongst the 18 to 30-year-olds. And Angus Dalgleish published this in the 22nd of July, 2021. And he goes, against the backlash against COVID vaccines amongst young people is the most dangerous medical misunderstanding of our times, fueled by bogus information on social media. It's not only putting hundreds of thousands of young people's lives at risk, but threatening the entire country's recovery from the pandemic. The latest NHS figures show that nearly a quarter of Britons aged 30 to 34 have not yet had their first dose. And so demand for, vaccines amongst the young kids have plummeted by 80%. So here, in an attempt to persuade the under 30s why they must have the jab, one of our foremost vaccine experts, Professor Angus Dalgleish, gives us forensic analysis and a rebuttal of some of the most common objections of young people. So he goes, one of the ones was young people only get mild symptoms. And he goes, it's entirely false to assume that because of a bout of COVID seems mild or asymptomatic, it cannot leave lasting damage. This is Prof. Dalgleish writing this. I had COVID, so I don't need a jab. Pretty goddamn obvious. We don't know how long antibodies and immunity last after COVID. Many people wrongly assume they have had COVID. Blah, blah, blah. A vaccine is highly effective insurance policy against the disease, one which research has proven lasts at least 6 months. This is Angus Dalgleish. The tests were too rushed. This is a regular concern of anxiety. And then he goes on and goes, the result was a set of vaccines that have proved highly effective against a brand new virus. And the UK jabbing program was conducted with military efficiency. Yeah, because it was a military operation. Yeah, of course it was. In phase 3 trials, there were thousands tested on people to see how effective they were. Yeah, the group who received the vaccine and control group who received a placebo were closely monitored. No, they weren't. The placebo group was given the vaccine just months later.
Yeah.
And it goes on and on. And and he totally debunks it. Vaccines will change our DNA. Yes, they do. No, and he argues they don't. It might make me infertile. The fear of infertility has made many young women reluctant to have the vaccine. There's no reliable evidence, none that I'm aware of, that it's ever affected. If you're planning to get pregnant, get inoculated. This is Angus Dalgleish. And Angus Dalgleish is now one of the so-called leading voices speaking out against all of this. But I had him on my podcast. Yeah, he's turned his tune. And it's like, oh, really, Angus? Maybe, wow, you were really pushing this. And on my podcast, he said I was coerced, and that piece was ghost written, and I was coerced into writing this piece.
Wow.
Yeah. So the Straits of Singapore, the Straits mouthpiece, the Guardian, the Daily Mail, the BBC, they're all propaganda arms of the government and the globalist corporations. They can spout lies and bullshit and criminal acts and nothing happens. But you, my dear lady, go on Telegram channel and just raise concerns. And now look, your life's been turned upside down and you're spending hundreds of thousands of dollars defending against trumped up charges. Does that feel fair to you?
Absolutely no. But I think that there will be justice, divine justice in a way, because I'm meeting them in court, I'm facing my accusers in court, and shit is starting to come out, man. Shit is starting to come out. They have uncovered that a high-ranking police officer by the name of Tan Pik Singh, who is the head investigation, had a secret meeting with the doctor in which he asked the doctor to embellish his statements against me. Not enough. He didn't show enough remorse. He needs to show more by putting the co-accused Iris Koh under the bus more, okay, so that he could get bail. So this has been reviewed in court so far.
So say that again. What did that high-ranking police officer do?
So according to Dr. Gibson's lawyer, okay, he said that this high-ranking officer told Dr. Gibson that he didn't show enough remorse and he has to embellish his statements against me, add more salt and pepper and stuff, okay, to make his statements add more, embellish, so that he could get bail. because at that time he wasn't offered any bail. We were all locked up at the same time. He went out earlier than me, okay? So, and he was basically cooperative from day one because of circumstances which I have now come to know. And of course, I was thinking, why would he be telling lies? And that's because of all these coercion which I didn't know existed.
So basically, if you want to get out, Doctor, you need to spice up your statement and paint Iris in a bad light. And if you do that, then you can get out. So what was the coercion? What was the circumstances that he was under?
He had, at that time was already in remand, like for 7 days, okay? And because it's not out in court yet, so I can't, okay, the things that have been out in court is the fact that it has been found out that before he went to police cantonment on the 21st of January, he was in MOH the day before, and he was there for a long time. Okay.
So he was at the Ministry of Health already. So before he went into the police station, he was at the Ministry of Health all day.
And he got very little sleep. Not much. What I hear is no food.
Am I right that they were also interrogating and getting, like, you know, demanding explanations, like at the middle of the night? It was running for the middle of the night.
Yeah, that one is not out in court yet, so I can't say that part yet.
Okay.
Publicly, but what has been established is that there was a MOH cup, okay, and there was a MOH statement that Dr. Jason gave at the first day before he was transported to Cantonment Police Station at 6 something in the morning, where he was interviewed by the police officer at 6:55 a.m. and again at 9 something in the morning. And just bear in mind, he hasn't slept the night before. 2 statements, okay, by the officer who seemed to just know there's some kind of conspiracy without referring to any MOH statements. Is not the normal way that police officers do their investigations, I am sure. You don't ask about the conspiracy in your first question without referring to any statements. That's from my own layperson point of view. Shortly after that, okay, he was processed by the second police officer that was on the stand. Okay, and this officer was preparing for Dr. Jason to be remanded. So he had to be processed, and he was preparing all the paperwork that day. After he was processed, they came for me on the 21st of January in the afternoon. So I'm starting to know the facts of the matter and what happened. And so these are the things which happened. And then with this second police officer on the 20th, and it appears that on the day, okay, so he had a secret meeting because it's unrecorded. It's not in any official capacity. And the lawyer said that Dr. Gibson was told never to tell anyone about this meeting with this high-ranking police officer, including his lawyers. You know, it's like one of those people who like to molest people, say, don't do these bad things, okay? Like, shouldn't tell anyone, you shouldn't tell whatever. That's what the lawyer said. Of course, the police officer denied that, okay? And the other thing that happened was like, so my lawyer was also crossing this officer. Why is the doctor treated so well? He was given so many phone calls to various people, okay? And Iris was not even given a single phone call. I wasn't even allowed to call my lawyer. I wasn't even allowed to call my husband. For 15 days, that's half a month. That's half a month of not knowing what is happening on the outside. And apparently, what Dr. Gibson told me that he was also given this bakwa, which is a sweet roasted meat, a few times, okay, for good behavior, because he was basically behaving very well. He was giving statements against me. And then finally, he was brought to this high-ranking police officer, in which then we asked them, okay, so what was the meeting about? Then the officer said, Tan Pek Seng wanted to ask about his well-being, how he was doing. Then my lawyer said, how come Iris didn't get to see him? How come Thomas didn't get to see him? Then, of course, the lawyers were asking, does the head investigator of Cantonment usually meet with the accused? And the answer is no. It's a highly, highly unusual meeting, which was not recorded officially in anywhere.
Wow.
But there is no denial. The police officer didn't deny that this happened because he arranged it, and he was present at that meeting together with Dr. Gibson and Tan Pek Seng. And in March 4th onwards, okay, there are 8 days of trials in March. Tan Pek Seng will take the stand and we will get to cross him and find out more.
And Tampik Sen is the police officer, the high-ranking police officer.
Yes, he's like third in command in the Cantonment police station. And he was also present at the MOH the night before.
The Ministry of Health. Right.
Yes.
Okay. So listen, it sounds to me like you were always the target. They've identified that you're this rogue, uncontrolled individual. You got your own channel. You're not staying in the vaccine injured group. They can't control you. You're a wild card, and they need to somehow get you. And the way they get you is through this doctor who's being pressured, sounds like he's a bit weak. And it's like, look, if you want your life back, you know what? You need to dump it all on Iris. Anyway, let's move on. So if we look at the charges, I have to admit, I love some of them. So it says, so you've got all these charges about fake vaccines, ones that you've not given any vaccine. You weren't there. You weren't in the room. You've actually told people to just get this vaccine from this doctor because he might be giving a body weight appropriate dosage. But they add more charges. You get 5 more charges. These involve violation of public order and harassment. And what is it? So you told 879 members of your Healing the Divide Telegram group, do you know what? Voluntarily obstruct the public servants of the Ministry of Health by flooding the Ministry of Health quality service feedback and hotlines and demanding that their calls be escalated for follow-up by Ministry of Health staff. So what were you telling them there? Were you telling what was the thing that you were telling your followers to do?
So what happened was that this message I believe was on a Monday. So on that Saturday, the government had an announcement that if you're unvaccinated, you cannot go to the malls. Okay, and over the weekend, I myself was flooded with distress calls and messages. People telling me they are suicidal, they don't know what to do anymore, they don't want to die, blah 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 blah, and So I became the help desk for this group of people, and overnight more than 1,000 people joined my Telegram group. Okay, actually the number is wrong. Yeah.
Just to put it into context so that people understand, Singapore is very humid, it's very hot, it's very built up, a lot of high-rise apartments, roads. There's not many places you can just go and relax and walk and get out in nature. It's a very urbanized little island.
Yes.
And a lot of people go to the mall for social activities. They go there for the cinema, for eating. It's air conditioned, it's cool. So if you can't go, you're really like in a prison. Am I right?
Yeah. Well, it's not just for entertainment. People go to the mall. We go to the mall to shop for groceries, to buy their medical supplies, and do all these other very important things, even for banking. Okay, these are essential services which are provided in the mall. And in October, they suddenly said that if you didn't take the vaccine, you cannot go to the mall. So obviously, everybody is stressed. And out of this announcement, many people went for the injection, and many flooded to my platform. Okay, so on Monday, what happened? And they made the announcement on a Saturday when all the government agencies were closed, and there was nobody they could complain to except to me and my channel. And they were coming to me as if I'm working for the government, but I'm not. I shouldn't be managing these distress calls because I'm not even trained to handle suicide stuff, right? But they were coming to me. So when I got the news, and basically it was the message that I sent out was a copy and paste from a message that I received. Okay? And there's only one problem with that message, which is the word flood. Okay? So I just put it on my channel for a few minutes, and then after that I decided to change the word flood to call, and the message is still on my Telegram. And then in November 2021 they investigated me for this. Okay, for 3 years they didn't do anything, but last year they decided to charge me for this. Okay, which is to me is really it's really vindictive because people really needed help. They need a place to go for counseling,
No, I get that. No, and good for you. I would have done the exact same thing. And then The 12 charge is something very similar. Basically, it was just in a different group. I would have done the exact same thing. And I love 13th charge and 14th charge, which are the same but different groups, where you said, listen, guys, you need to go to your doctors and say, look, I want to book in for a vaccine, and go and record it. Record the consent process, record the consultation. And if they can't tell you what's in the shot and they can't tell you the safety and efficacy individualized for your care, maybe you should report them to the Singapore Medical Council. Especially if they don't give permission to record answers and consider this. And I think that's great. Absolutely. Hold these doctors to account. Do because I can tell you right now, it's my opinion, no one in the world who had a shot had informed consent. No doctor can tell you what's in the shots, what the ingredients are. They can't give you your proper safety profile. Nothing. So... well done, you. It's great that you told them to go and do that.
Well, the thing, it was really a last desperate move because MOH refused to come to our meetings. MOH refused to answer our questions. And they were doing trials at the KKH hospital and they were rolling out the children's vaccines before the trials were completed. Right? And the parents were very worried because they didn't want the children to be denied school, to be denied all these CCA and stuff, and said, look, well, since they are not answering us here, they should at least answer at the vaccination center where they are supposed to answer. Unless you want everybody to just roll up their sleeves, shut up and get injected.
Well, that's exactly what they wanted to do. And I don't want to go over it, but I've talked about this. I was under a lot of pressure and coercion to get the shot. By my colleagues, by the hospital, by my family. And I went to the vaccine center to get more information and consider getting the shot. I was like, oh, okay, but I'm going to ask a few more questions. And before even answering my questions, the needle was in my arm. And I went and sat in the car and cried. I never had a second shot or any more shots. And that's when I got angry and became an accidental activist.
Wow, that's really shocking that they just did it.
There was no consent. And I said, dude,
wow.
I had so many questions to ask you. And they're like, we don't have time. Yeah, we don't have time for that. You're here. You've consented. I went, no, I haven't. You've just you think it's implied consent just because I've sat down. But I've got so many questions to ask, and you've just done it.
Did you sign any paper?
No signing paper, nothing.
You should sue them, man, since you didn't give them your consent.
So let me tell you about the justice system here. Listen, I've spoken to enough victims around the world and here in the UK to tell you that it's my opinion there is no justice. All the legal systems are captured and controlled by the governments and then by the corporations and globalists and the cabal. And they use lawfare to drain you of your time, your energy, and your money, and to destroy you. And there's very little justice. It's very hard to get justice. But also, the medical boards, you mentioned, the Singapore medical boards referring to the doctors. I just did a podcast with Bruce Dooley, and he's unraveled the connection of how all the medical boards around the world are controlled by this medical board organization coming out of Texas. And they're all saying the same thing. They all punish the doctors in the same way. And doctors go there to die in these tribunals. There's one of my friends last year killed herself, Dr. Jackie Stone in Zimbabwe.
Oh my
goodness. Too much for her.
Oh, she was such a... Yeah.
They take away your livelihood. They take away your purpose, your ability to treat people. They crush you. Anyway, let's move on. Look, I understand also that this court case is still ongoing. Before we move on to other things, is there anything else you want to talk about in the court case?
Well, I hope more people can come in March to see we have an open court system. So March 4 to 7, 11 to 14. And what I want to say is that the good thing, I will tell you a little bright light. I feel that the current judge that we have seems very patient and appears to be kind. Okay, and so on the second day, Dr. Justin's lawyer asked the judge. He said, "I'm about to disclose something which may need some discretion. Are we okay can I do it in open court or do you prefer chambers?" And the judge said, "Well, we have an open court system. Let's hear it." And because the reporters were in the room, and when he brought up about the high-ranking police officer, that's when the reporters started taking it down, right? And it was published. And this piece of news is published in the newspaper, which to me is a glimmer of hope. But day 3 and day 4, there was no more reporters, no more stories in the newspaper. Okay.
And was there any more discussions on day 3, day 4? What else were they talking about in day 3, day 4?
Well, they were crossing the police officer that arranged the meeting with the high-ranking officer and talking about how well he treated Dr. Gibson and how badly he treated me. And basically, so he was being crossed, on the stand for that. And I mean, of course, more things that were being revealed during those 2 days, including the fact that Dr. Gibson, his assistant is called Thomas. So he was also asking, I mean, he's self-represented. He doesn't have any lawyer. So he was asking this IO, did Dr. Gibson ask you for his medical records? Say, yeah. Did you give it to him? No. Why not? Basically, they didn't give him any medical records to refer to, and he was basically supposed to, based on his memory and creativity, point out patients that he supposed gave the fake vaccination to. Okay? So, and he asked the IO, do you know what does fake saline vaccination mean? So, and then so I mean, this word, fake saline vaccination, it's going to be important, I believe, in the coming trials. What is fake saline vaccination? So the doctor said that he gave the real thing, right? So fake saline doesn't mean real vaccine. So anyway, that one is going to be discussed. And I am just hoping that people around the world will pay attention about what is happening here in Singapore, and we have an open court system. And the other victory that I have is that in December, the courtroom that we were assigned was very small. It's only 12 seats. And I requested to the court to get a bigger courtroom, and they have agreed. And now we're getting a much bigger courtroom with 60 seats.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's a glimmer of hope. And I really, because if the newspaper is not going to come, then I'm going to have to invite people to come and see for yourself and to know what's happening. And
I would love to come and be there, but yeah, it's just, yeah. Listen, I really hope a lot of people come and watch. It's funny, there's another doctor, Dr. Kirk Moore, out in the States. He's a plastic surgeon, and he's in court, and he's facing significant jail time for apparently giving fake vaccines. He's really being persecuted. It's just desperately sad. We talk about 15-minute cities and all that kind of stuff. I've heard that not just to forget the 15-minute cities, that Singapore is now a digital city, and it's part of the whole WEF plan. Do you know anything about that?
Well, I know about the WEF. It's very, I would say, it seems to have infiltrated every part of our lives. In 2023, when there was a presidential election, and our current president sits on the WEF board of trustees. I went there to object.
Really?
Basically. His name
What's
is
the
Taman
president's name?
Shanmugaratnam. Taman Shanmugaratnam. I was the only one. Okay, I wrote the petition. Okay, one day before the what do you call it? Where they have the nomination. I went to object at the nomination center. Okay, they refused to let me go through. All right, and cameras were on me. All the press knows about it, but there was nothing. The next day, nobody talked about it. Only one brave reporter there asked one question, and it was in a very small part of an article later on. But nobody, okay? And I objected so much. I made petition and I made videos, and my video was seen like 300,000 times. And then after that, the government came up with a bill, all right, to say that they are making provisions for the president to be part of international organizations like the WEF.
Wow.
And members of the cabinet to be part of that. So actually, as the sitting president, okay, there he is. As a president, as we know, it's got to do with sovereignty of our nation. And technically, they cannot belong to any other foreign groups. But this guy is sitting as the board of trustee in many global
Globalists.
groups. Yes.
What a joke. It's all and also now you've also, so I mean, this has happened everywhere globally. Klaus Schwab has admitted that we have infiltrated governments and cabinets around the world. We have our people, like Justin Trudeau, like Rishi Sunak, like Keir Starmer, the Davos man, Jacinda Ardern. I mean, Macron, Putin. I mean, all these people are WEF, young global leaders. It's kind of terrifying. It's very scary. But another thing that's happened in Singapore, which I think is incredulous, is this Singapore Fake News Laws Guide to POFMA, Protection from Online Falsehoods and Manipulation Act. What the hell is this all about? Who decides what's fake news? Who decides what's falsehood and manipulation? Because I have only seen the government and the government's media promote falsehood and fake news. This is terrifying.
Okay.
Isn't it?
Yes. Well, okay. I am proud to say that as of today, I have not received any notice from this POFMA office, even though the MOH has accused me of spreading misinformation. When they accused me of spreading misinformation, in October 2021, I said, give me a POFMA. I want to have a POFMA. Because once I have a POFMA, I will be challenged in court, right? We have to go to court and stuff. I said, give me a POFMA. Don't just accuse me. And they didn't give me any POFMA, okay? So I am very... And I've actually been to the POFMA office over the presidential election when I wrote something about disappearing ink. But I said this, it actually basically was a question. And I went there and I told them, look, if you give me a POFMA, I will absolutely challenge this because I am going to remain POFMA free. Okay? So, but there are many other people who have gotten POFMA notices and who feel that it's not, recently Bloomberg got POFMA. You go check it out, okay, regarding something about and of course, okay, I'm of the position that things have to be factual. And
yes.
and it's important to spread factual things. But of course, people should still be allowed to have their opinion without destroying the credibility of another and so forth. Okay, I am definitely for that. But sometimes, of course, it may be a little bit difficult depending on the information that you have available and for you to be able to say something factually. But I take great pains in my writing and in my videos to try to avoid all these landmines.
But this censorship, this era of censorship is just madness. And the problem is that, you and I are not perfect. And once or twice we make a mistake, they're all over us like ants on sticky honey. But with the government and the media lie consistently and repeatedly and nothing happens. I'll give an example. I did a podcast with Dr. Jane Ruby, and basically, I put it. A Substack now uploads it on YouTube. I gave up on YouTube, but because I stopped uploading it on YouTube ages ago. But recently, Substack automatically uploads it on YouTube, and I got this. YouTube removed your content. Hi, Ahmed Malik. It looks like Dr. Jane Rubio is on fire. Didn't follow community guidelines. To keep our community safe, we removed it from YouTube. We think your content didn't follow our medical misinformation policy. That poses serious risk of egregious harm by spreading medical misinformation about currently administered vaccines that are approved and confirmed to be safe and effective by local health authorities and the World Health Organization. Do you see the bullshit there? The complete inversion of reality. They are pushing these toxic, poisonous, genetic interventions, and because we're highlighting harms, it gets withdrawn, and I'm accused of spreading dangerous misinformation. What the fuck?
Yeah.
It's 2025, and this shit is still real, still happening.
Well, recently I was removed from Facebook. Okay, my Facebook account of 17 years was deleted because I believe some of my enemies targeted me. Okay, they removed me citing cybersecurity rules and I breached cybersecurity rules. But I'm not a hacker. I don't even install any malware on my thing. And they said, oh, authenticity and whatever. But I show my face. I show my real photo. I show my name, everything. Okay. So the good news is I've sued Meta. Okay, recently, and the Supreme Court gave me an injunction to get back my data. And if Facebook doesn't turn up, I will have my Facebook account restored. So I've got a victory there. So they asked, and there is a cybersecurity unit in Singapore whose head, by the name of David Koh, is under the WEF. Is a board of trustees.
Oh, for God's sake.
I'm going to absolutely send you this information. And I have enemies in high places who wants to silence me. Okay? POFMA office is actually good. As in, they never gave me any notice. But Facebook, they think that they can just delete my account and my husband's account with a switch of a button by just saying I'm breaking cybersecurity rule, but account authenticity and so forth. But I have sued them. And I intend to win. I intend to win this because there's absolutely no cybersecurity thing that I'm breaking.
Do you think things are changing in Singapore? Do you think more people are waking up now with what's happened to you? Do you think people are thinking there's something seriously wrong with our society and the way the government's run and what's happening with these vaccine rollouts?
Well, definitely they may not. Definitely more people are awake. You can see that they are not taking any more shots. Many people are not taking any more shots. I mean, the fourth shot was dwindling by a lot. So, I mean, most people took it and they probably experienced some negative health effects, I can imagine. There's nothing like your personal experience to discourage you from taking any more. And if they observe their friends, family members either dying or getting turbo cancer or myocarditis and any one of those 1291 side effects, it's there's not much convincing needed, actually, even though they may not be very vocal about it. But it's like the emperor's new clothes, right? We know the emperor is naked. It's just you're not allowed to say, but everybody knows. I just happen to be the child who tells the emperor, who just speaks up, and I'm getting arrowed and I'm getting persecuted.
Wow, it's so funny just hearing you. Like, we're so similar in so many. I've said the same thing. One of my supporters sent me a picture of me as a child pointing at the emperor with no clothes and said, "Look, Doc Malik is calling out the emperor with no clothes." And I said, instead of the grown-up saying, "Well done, little kid, that you called out this," they start silencing me and attacking me, and here I am. I'm not a surgeon anymore. Oh man, it's a crazy world we're living in. It's absolutely hilarious. Take out the popcorn, sit back, put your feet up, and watch the shit show. Anyway, listen, before we wrap up, I'm sure you'll update me later in the year after your next hearing in court. Look, the final question I always give to my guests is: imagine you're on your deathbed, you're over 100, you've lived a very interesting life. Before you die and meet your maker, what words of wisdom and advice would you want to reinforce and impart on your loved ones who are around you?
Be true to yourself, and never compromise. And the truth is the truth. It's very simple. Just live a simple life. Living a simple life may not always be easy, but it's the most fulfilling and it's the most powerful. And I stand ready to meet my maker anytime, any day. In fact, I just do what I can. I'm not afraid to die. I'm not afraid to go to jail. I'm not afraid to do anything. I don't wish to die. I don't wish to go to jail. But of course, all of us have to die one day. But it's more important to live. It's more important to live standing up than to be on our knees begging. And I don't want to beg. I only have one master, and that's the Lord Jesus. God is my master. I won't be calling any globalist my master. I won't be calling any other thing my master. And I think that's the message that I want to give to people, is that freedom. When I was in jail, it was surprisingly the safest place to be, because that's the worst that it can go. That's the worst that it can go. And even though I'm there, I am free in my spirit. I still speak. I still didn't hold back, and I still spoke what I needed to say. Maybe the police officers were meant to hear it. I don't know, but I'm not going to change a word what I said, because
you don't live in fear, do you?
No, I mean, and And I'm very grateful that God has really protected me and saw me through. And I'm just an ordinary person. I don't have great wealth or whatever, but whatever resources that I need, it would always come. When I needed to sue this thing, sue that thing, and when I needed for my lawsuit, somehow the money came and at the time that I needed. And I really, really see what I'm doing as just being a messenger and just letting God work through me. And I think also I've written a song about David versus Goliath. And I think it's really, David was a simple shepherd boy. He was humble. He only had 5 stones and a sling. These are his weapons. All of us have our weapons. God has given all of us our gifts and our stones. Use them. And we can all be heroes. And the world needs more heroes. We need more good news and light and faith that can move mountains.
Lovely. It's funny you should talk about the story of David and Goliath. I was speaking to someone about that, and I think even that might be an inversion of reality of what actually happened. Anyway, that's another story. Fascinating. Like I said, everything I now know, I question. I question everything we've been told. Everything has almost been a lie. And, but I love the fact you're a warrior spirit and you're so brave and courageous. I wish I could bottle it and spread it in an aerosol form across the world. You know how they've weaponized and spread through aerosols, potentially the so-called pandemic? It'd be quite good if we could bottle your bravery and courage and weaponize that and aerosol it. But anyway, listen, Iris, absolute pleasure chatting to you. Thank you so much. Keep in touch. I'll be rooting
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'll put all your contact details on the show notes. But do you want to remind people where they can find you and follow you?
Sure. I'm on Telegram. My channel is called Healing the Divide. I'm on TikTok. Go to look for Iris Koh 11. And I'm on Twitter, Iris Koh HTD. And just follow me, send me a message anywhere. I would love to connect with more people.
Wonderful. All right. God
Thank
bless
you so much. Thank you so much.
Right. Okay, Iris, this is several days after our last podcast. And I insisted that we do this extra recording because during one of our phone calls after the recording of the podcast, you dropped an absolute bombshell on me. Like absolute bombshell. So I think this is really important. So basically, when you were arrested for something you haven't done, you weren't just taken to a cell and, like you normally see on TV and you have your rights and you get your lawyer and you had a very different experience. Can you just explain to me and the audience what happened to you? What was it like being held by the police in Singapore?
Okay, so I just want to say that my experience is probably not the normal experience because some reason they somehow gave me extra bad treatment. Okay, but I was in remand, okay, which is basically before, that's technically not jail, but it's quite bad. So I was remanded at the Cantonment police station and I was treated like a prisoner. I have to change out my clothes, wear a white t-shirt and shorts. There is no bed. I sleep on the floor with a blanket, just one blanket, which can be for my pillow or to cover myself, depending on what I want. Okay?
Oh, did you have a mattress?
No.
What was the floor made of?
Cement.
You were sleeping on cement?
Yes. Okay, this is the standard treatment for everybody in remand, okay? So I'll just tell you what the standard treatment is. Then I'll tell you my extra special treatment. So the standard treatment is there's no bed. You get to sleep. Everybody sleep on the floor. Okay? This is the size of my towel. The size of my towel is the size of a tissue paper. So I don't have normal towel. This is the remand towel, this size.
Basically, so tissue paper, a serviette. You've got a serviette as a towel, a hand cloth, face cloth.
No, as in this is the size. It's still a towel, but it's just this small.
That's what I'm saying.
Just imagine, yes.
Yeah.
To wipe yourself with this size. Okay, and basically I was okay. So and the lights are on all the time. It's 24 hours white light. Even when you're sleeping, the lights are on. So basically, and then you don't get the sunshine. So I think I had a severe depletion of vitamin D. So
hold on, how'd you get to sleep if you've got the lights on all the time?
Well, you just close your eyes. Sometimes I put the blanket over my eyes, or just do this so that I will not get try to get as little light as possible, but I'm sleeping on the floor. And the toilet, there's a toilet inside the cubicle, and there is one that is for your showering. You want to wash your face or whatever, so there's a tap from the top. And then there's a tap at the bottom that's for you to wash up, okay? After you go toilet, there's no toilet paper or anything, okay? So
there's no toilet paper?
No.
So is this one of those Asian toilets where it's just a hole in the ground?
Yes.
You squat?
Yes, there's a hole in the ground, you squat, okay? And then there's the tap that is for showering, and then at the bottom is where you can clean up after you go toilet.
Do you have any soap?
You have a soap. It's a very, very small soap. Okay, you have a toothbrush. It's a very, very small toothbrush. And that's that, okay? And so that's the standard treatment for everybody. If you are in remand, you get that treatment.
Iris, remind me never to get arrested in Singapore.
Yes, you don't want to be. Definitely. Anyway, most people are in remand for maybe less than 48 hours. Likely, because in 48 hours, you will either need to be charged for a crime or they must release you. Okay?
Yeah.
So basically...
How long were you in there for?
I was there for 15 days.
What? Sleeping on a hard concrete floor with lights on the whole time and that kind of facility. What was your food like?
Well, the food was actually quite okay. It was packet food with rice, maybe vegetable and some meat. Basically, that was I was in three different places during remand. The first one was Police Cantonment Road. Okay, that was the normal remand place. I was there the most of the time. But on the third day, which is the Sunday, I was in remand on Friday. By Sunday, I asked to go see the doctor because I was getting panic attack. And so the default medical place they would send anybody in remand is actually the IMH, which is the mental hospital. Okay? Yeah, so this is the police cantonment. The building behind is actually flats. It's not the actual cantonment police station. So if you were to search cantonment police station, you'll probably see the other picture that you have.
This thing.
Yes, the blue building. It's a really huge building. There's underground facilities, which is where we were kept. Okay?
Right. Okay. Keep going.
Okay. So on Sunday, I went to IMH. I started having panic attack. So I said, I want to see the doctor. So they say that to take me to the IMH, which is the mental hospital at Woodbridge. Okay, so they have a forensic ward there where they keep people like that are in remand or in prison. If you need to see the doctor, that's where they will send you. It's called the Institute of Mental Health, which is called IMH. Okay, I got a little bit of respite there. So I went there on Sunday night. I was checked in, and that night I got a bed. So I get to sleep on the bed on Sunday night. And I told the nurse that I needed to see a doctor the next day because I'm not feeling well. And I just wanted to also basically record what's happening to me because I don't have my phone. I have no contact with the outside world for 15 days. I couldn't talk to my lawyer. I couldn't talk to my husband. I didn't know what was happening outside for half a month. Just imagine, some people can't even live one day without their phones, right? But I'm in remand. I don't have my phone. I basically have nothing on the outside. I don't know what's happening at all. So the Monday, I wanted to see the doctor. So I was brought to, and this is the very, very shocking part, okay? So at about 10 o'clock, I was asked to go see this doctor, which I went. And that day when I woke up, I had a lot of stomach upset. So I was going in and out of the toilet. And by the time I saw the doctor, halfway through seeing the doctor, I said, I need to go to the toilet. So I went to the toilet, I came back, and then she put me in a Zoom meeting with this other doctor called Dr. Stephen Pang and the forensic psychiatry. And Dr. Stephen Pang started asking me, do I know why I'm there? I said, I'm stressed out by the investigations and that's why I'm there. So he started, and then he wouldn't hear every bad thing that I want to say about the police. He just wanted me to, I mean, it was as if he has an agenda. He wasn't really like a doctor. He wasn't asking me about my well-being. But then it was basically for him, okay, I said, then he said, I have accessed you. You are mentally fit for trial. And whatever complaints I want to talk about, he said, I can talk to the judge who's waiting for me on the other side. I said, what judge? Just bear in mind, I thought I'm in a medical appointment. Suddenly, I have to see the judge. Have you ever treated a patient where halfway you said, hang on, you're going to have to see the judge? I mean, what kind of doctor is this? Okay.
You disappeared for a while.
Yeah, sorry, because my husband is coughing, so I'm asking him to go somewhere. Okay, so basically, that was a very, very shocking thing that happened to me. Okay, and I said, what judge? I said, if this is a trial, I need my lawyer. I'm not going into a trial with no lawyer. Okay, basically they say they wanted me to see the judge. I said, what judge? I'm in hospital. I'm in a doctor's appointment. What trial? So then at that time, I said, look, I may be mentally, and then he said, no, I have accessed you. You are mentally fit for trial. I said, I may be mentally fit for trial, but I'm not physically fit for trial. I have a stomach ache again. I need to go. So I quickly ran out of the room. Okay. So that was at the Institute of Mental Hospital. And basically they wanted to then insist on taking me back to Cantonment again. And I said, I actually didn't want to go back, okay, because I said I'm not well. I mean, the longer story, I won't say it in this broadcast, but I'll tell you the longer story, the details. So what happened was I was taken back to Cantonment Police Station on Monday evening. So I just stayed there for one night. So I went back to Cantonment Police Station. And then on the Tuesday, and oh yeah, one more thing. When I first went to the police station, okay, the first investigating officer, he was very nasty and rude to me. And he said, look, I'm going to charge you tomorrow. He was shouting at me. I said, charge me? Aren't you going to investigate? First, investigate you later. I said, huh? Investigating me later? You're going to charge me first? And I was very, very, very concerned. Okay, and I wanted to make a police report on the investigation officer for 3 days. Okay, and at every turn, they try to prevent me from making a police report, which I understand is to be illegal because even a prisoner gets to make a police report. But for me, okay, they didn't allow me to make the police report for 3 days. And every officer that I asked said, I can't make a police report. I said, why? They said, because I'm in remand. I said, so does that mean that you can commit a crime when someone is in remand? And they basically didn't say anything, okay? So on Sunday, it was within the 48 hours of me being arrested, I was finally taken to see a judge. And I had informed the judge that I think my investigations are not fair because the police officer already concluded that I'm guilty and I wanted to make, and then the DPP, the deputy prosecutor, then asked, okay, and after that, he said, where was I?
The DPP.
The DPP, the deputy prosecutor said, why didn't I make a police report? I said I wanted to, but every single person said I cannot.
Okay, Iris, what was the special treatment you got compared to the normal remand and how they treat you? Said you got extra. What was the extra stuff?
Yes, I'm going to tell you the extra stuff now. Okay, so I wasn't allowed to make police report, which is the extra stuff. Accused gets to make police report. In fact, it's like a standard practice. Sometimes every few hours, if you're in a remand, they will ask you, do you want to make a police report? Do you want to make a police report? That's just to make sure that they're investigating properly. Okay, so at least I know that the standard investigation protocol by the Singapore Police Force is at least proper, but not the way that I was treated. It was not proper because I wasn't allowed to make police report for 3 days, despite the fact that I wanted to make, okay? So that's already one very huge irregularity. Now, the other thing that happened to me was that on this was on Wednesday morning, okay, of my remand, the early hours of that day, I was very stressed and I started going into a panic attack again. And I told them I wanted to see the doctor because I was afraid that I was getting like this panic attack is no good. So luckily, the doctor that was on duty said that, okay, fine, asked me and sent me an ambulance and got me to go to the Singapore General Hospital, okay, which was just opposite the police cantonment road. They sent an ambulance for me, which was good. And they brought me to SGH. But okay, so over at SGH, I was given examinations by the doctors. I was asked to go for blood tests and X-ray and so forth. But you know, when we were moving from one place to the next, for example, if I were to go from cantonment to the IMH, the mental hospital, or if I was walking in SGH, okay, my legs would be chained, okay? If I were to go toilet, it would be chained. Can you just imagine? I am surrounded by 2 police officers. Already, I'm in high security. It's not as if I'm going to run away, but they still needed to chain my feet. And as an accused, if you were to go toilet, they do not allow you to close the door. So I would be accompanied by a female police officer. Okay, just imagine I'll go to the toilet and they'll be standing outside and basically ensuring that I'm not going to try to escape. I'm not going to try to do anything when I'm in the toilet. So this is how dehumanizing it is. I believe this is the standard treatment. The toilet part is the standard treatment. Now, I'm going to tell you the extra stuff.
We have to be quick because I need to pick up my kids in 5 minutes. So
Okay,
rattle them off quickly.
Okay, sure. And then the next thing is that when I'm in hospital, I would be chained to the bed at all times. Okay? So, and they were treating me so bad that they didn't allow me to go to the normal toilet. After I was admitted to the hospital, when I wanted to go toilet, they said I can't go. I said, what? And what they did was that they then rolled in the toilet and asked me to pee and poo next to my bed. Yeah. Just bear in mind, I was not potential for falls because that's how, some patients, they can't go toilet normally, right? That's because maybe they're susceptible to falls and all that, but I wasn't. But they didn't allow me to go to the toilet. They rolled the toilet in, asked me to pee and poo next to my bed. And when I wanted to wash my hands after I went to the toilet, and the sink was just 100 meters, I just walk a few steps, I could reach the basin to basically wash my hands, and they refused to let me go, and they asked me to wash my hands in a plastic container and asked me to wash my hands there, okay? And they didn't allow me to take a shower, okay? So this happened, and luckily I managed to get out of this situation by telling them, look, because when I was admitted, they got the directors of admission to come and tell me that I would have to pay for my hospital stay, maybe $1,000 for 3 days. Maybe they were trying to scare me or discourage me from staying in the hospital, but I was very desperate because
while you're in remand, they're telling you you're going to have to pay for it.
Yes. And I'm thinking, this is ridiculous because I'm in remand because of you guys. You guys are stressing me out, right? And I'm in state custody, so why am I have to pay? But anyway, I was so desperate, I just signed the form. I said, fine, you want me to pay, I'm going to stay here. And I used that card to basically get out of the toilet situation. So I told them, I said, look, fine, if you don't want me to go to the toilet, then you tell your bosses that I'm not paying for my hospital stay. Right? You want me to pay $1,000? Would you pay $1,000 when you can't use the toilet, you can't use the sink, you can't use the shower? What kind of hospital is this? So I'm either in state custody or I am in private hospital care. Then if I'm paying $1,000, I expect to go to the toilet. And when I use that card, I could suddenly go to the toilet. I could suddenly use the sink. I can suddenly have a shower. Okay? So I understand it's probably not normal, and I think they were trying to break me.
Yeah, I was just
trying with all, and I'm just giving you the tip of the iceberg of the conditions that I suffered while in remand, and this is not all, but this is probably what we can fit in this short time that we have. And if people have more questions, I'd be happy to tell them more. But I think it seems like kind of severe violation of human rights.
Yeah, it does. It's surreal. It's so dystopian. It's unbelievable. I mean, I honestly was thinking of the phrase, they were trying to break you just as you said it. It sounds like the harsh conditions, the lights on all the time, the hard floor to sleep on, the dehumanizing, no toilet paper, wash in a bucket, chain your hands when you go to the toilet. All of this is to break your spirit.
Yes, and it's very, and when I'm showering, the police officer is also in the toilet because they are somehow afraid that I will escape from the toilet. You just imagine, I don't have anything. I don't have my phone. I don't have anything else. It's just the hospital clothes and that. But they're still as worried that I will. I mean, I don't think they're worried that I'm going to escape, but they just want to dehumanize me. They just want to humiliate me by watching me go toilet, by watching me shower, by basically just all that treatment that they gave.
Wow. Okay, Iris. Well, listen, thank you so much, and God bless you. Just, it's crazy. Absolutely crazy. And good luck to you on your next round back in March of this year. You're going back twice. We're all rooting for you and praying that these guys see some sense, or at least think, you know what, this isn't worth it. You know, we're gonna get a bad reputation by pursuing this, you know, punishment on you.
Absolutely will.
All right.
Yes.
Well, listen, God bless you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I, Ahmed Malik, am a private civilian protected by the Geneva Convention. My Substack, social media posts and podcasts are my personal experiences, observations and opinions. This information is for educational purposes only. Although I am a doctor, I am not your doctor, and I am not providing medical or legal advice to you or to the wider public. I am not licensed or registered with the GMC or any other licensing board. The responsibility for the interpretation, due diligence and use of the information from my Substack and my podcast lies with you, the viewer and or listener. Please do your research and use your discernment. It is not my intention to harass, intimidate, offend, defame, conspire, blackmail, coerce, or cause anxiety, alarm or distress to any man or woman, and the information presented here is done so with peaceful and honourable intentions. Enjoy, folks.